Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about the Arylic S50 Pro. What this is a preamp with a built-in streamer and a whole slew of functionality. I really strongly want to encourage you to hop over to their website for all the specs and compatibility because there's a lot, okay? I tried to make a list, guys, but it was just way too much. It's compatible with all kinds of file formats. You can do AirPlay, you can do Bluetooth 5.0. It's got the built-in app. You can use almost any kind of software you want with it. It's got a lot going on. Essentially, what this kind of is like a cheaper Bluesound Node 2i with more features, actually. And that's kind of wild because this is only $219. So it comes with a little remote that's fairly full functioning. It even has tone control options on the remote. The power adapter is fairly small. There's no large power brick or anything like that. It's your average wall wart. And if you're wondering if I just left my drink out by accident, I didn't. I left it out because I wanted to show you the size comparison. I'm like, this is it. That's the unit. Little guy, tiny. And if some of you guys don't perhaps like the look of these antennas, these are just for Bluetooth. You don't have to use them. You could totally just unscrew them if you're going to just use it as a streamer, for example. Because if you're using it as a streamer, you're going to use the app on your phone. It's called ForStream. And it's just going to all be through Wi-Fi. On the back, it does have an Ethernet port, so you can connect it via Ethernet. You can also connect it to your Wi-Fi. I actually used it wirelessly, and it was great. The only thing I've noticed, and this is with a lot of streamers, when you plug them into Ethernet, these songs play just a little bit quicker. And when they're on wireless, there's about like a 1 second buffer between songs. No surprise there, right? On the back, we've got a few different connection options because, again, this is a preamp with volume control and everything. We've got your line input, we've got line output, we've got a mono subwoofer output. We have coaxial out for digital as well as optical out for digital, so you guys can use your own DAC if you want to. I tried it with and without a DAC. I'll get into that when I talk about the sound impressions. Ethernet and a USB input, but I believe that USB input is for like a USB stick with songs on it. I don't think you can use that for like a DAC or anything like that. Or like, I don't know. Check their website, honestly, guys. There's too many features. I can only tell you about how I used it. So let me put that back down here. And I'll throw some pictures on screen as just, of this thing in random little places so you can really get an idea for how small it is. But I use this in my main reference rig. In place of my Bluesound Node 2i. That thing's $550. It is also what I would consider a fairly affordable streamer. It's one of the cheapest ones, honestly, but it's pretty darn good. I've had it for about, almost 3 years now, and I love it. So in the first way I used it was the same way that I use my current streamer. Streamer only. With the Denafrips Ares DAC handling all the D to A conversion. So I'm doing coaxial out from the Bluesound Node 2i to the Denafrips Ares. I did the same thing with the Arylic S50 Pro, coaxial out to the Denafrips Ares. Comparing the two, it was tough. I'm not sure I heard a difference. I'm not sure I did. It did seem like on the double the price Bluesound Node 2i, I think soundstage was a little bit bigger. I do think spatial cues were a little bit larger. This was a bit like, honestly, it was like doing a cable comparison. Like I just kept listening, I kept going back and forth, and every time I thought there was a difference going to the Node 2i, I'd go back to the Arylic, and I'm like, God damn, I don't know if there's a huge difference, honestly. And perhaps it's better just to say there was a difference, but it's hard. You can't say one is better than the other. The Arylic S50 Pro, the biggest thing I noticed where it was different over the Bluesound Node 2i was bass. The Arylic S50 Pro seemed to have more prominent bass. Where I noticed the Bluesound Node 2i was different is the top end seemed to stage just a little bit wider. And the kind of like separation of higher frequencies was just the tiniest bit more refined, a little bit better. But for the most part, comparing the two, using an external DAC was a case of different, not better, which speaks volumes for the S50 Pro because it's half the price. So yeah, that was impressive right there. Second thing I did is I took the DAC out of the equation. because let's be honest, most people probably aren't going to use a $219 preamp streamer with a $800 DAC. So I use the internal DAC of the Arylic. I use the internal DAC of the Node 2i. And again here, I ran into like a similar situation where I was like, man, this is like really close still. Now, look, let's be clear. The Node 2i, using its internal DAC, it was a little bit more noticeably, I would say better. It was better than the Arylic S50 Pro, but a little bit, just a little bit. And for more than double the price, like, it ought to be. And let me kind of illustrate how little bit I mean. If you were to come over, remove my Bluesound Node 2i and put this there instead, and I had no way to notice, like it was like tucked away and whatever, and let's say the app wasn't a giveaway, just ears are the only giveaway, I don't think I'd notice. I really don't think I'd notice. The sound from the Arylic S50 Pro compared to the Bluesound Node 2i, oof, neck and neck, man, neck and neck. So if you're looking for a really affordable alternative to the Node 2i, I guess it's just called the Node 2 now because they released that 2021 version. Here you go, man. Here you go. It can handle all kinds of file formats. Does a lot. It really does a lot. And in some areas, it actually does more. It has a remote. The Node 2i doesn't have a remote. While both have tone controls, the tone controls of the Arylic, you can use the remote, where the tone controls for the Node 2i are in the app only. Yeah, this is one of those things where I kind of expected a bigger difference between the Node 2i and the S50 Pro. I thought the Arylic would be kind of grainy by comparison, and it wasn't. I thought there'd be a big difference, and there just wasn't. They were pretty neck and neck. Yeah, it's a good piece. So there you have it, guys. Trying to think if there's anything I'm leaving out here. Again, this one does not have a built-in amp or anything like that. If you're looking for something like this kind of feature set, but with a built-in amplifier, that's going to be the A50 Pro. I do have one of those here, and I'll review it in a future video. I also got, Arylic has an even smaller one that looks to be more suited for like desktop or like really just like ultra like tiny system use. I got a review sample of that too, and I'll talk about that one in a future video as well. I might do those two together actually because they're very similar products. But I wanted to do a separate video on this because this can be added to your existing system, kind of no matter what you have. And if you have like, if you're like all vintage, but like you wanted to add some streaming functionality, guys, my system sits at like $10,000 and this sounded just fine in there, just fine. It was great. I believe if they, they upgraded the casework on this and the brand was like more prominent, they could probably charge like 3 times as much for it, like for real. And I don't usually say stuff like that. You guys know I'm not the kind of guy that says like, oh, this thing is like, competes with stuff 3 times the price. I never say that. I don't generally believe that. I generally believe you get what you pay for. And for the most part, you do. The Node 2i has nicer casework, and that's where some of your money goes. The Node 2i is from a more prominent company. That's where some of your money goes. It's from Bluesound, which is affiliated with NAD. That's a much larger company. Anyhow, guys, I don't think there's much else to say here. If you've got any questions, ask about them in the comments below. Hold on. Sorry, one more thing. It's got a freaking screen. It's not the biggest screen. It's not a fancy screen, but it's got a freaking screen. When you adjust the volume, you can see the numbers change. It tells you what song is playing. Pretty surprising. I'll throw a picture so you can see what I'm talking about. Yeah, overall impressed. Great unit, 219 bucks. I think this is kind of like the just benchmark budget streamer preamp right here. It's great, honestly. Yeah, all right, I'll shut up. Until next time, later.